Let's welcome Richard Q from Flagstaff, Arizona. Love the hat too, by the way.
No pressure, no pressure. Got your phone. This is yours?
No, let's leave that one there.
Okay. All right. Damn. Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Quinones, or Richard Q. I am an alcoholic. Really good to be here with y'all. It's such an honor. I want to thank everybody. Thank Rich for inviting me here, and thank everybody that put this thing on. This is really impressive. When alcoholics get their mind set on something, they sure put it together, right? Because, when we wanted to get loaded, we didn't care, right? We did all kinds of damage. But now we do so much different, right? I've just been impressed about how Alcoholics Anonymous has changed my life. I was in a meeting a couple of days ago, and I was telling the group, it's like, when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, my sponsor had me be the greeter at the door. And then what he told me was, well, we're going to put you as the greeter, because I thought, me, I'm brand new, fresh out of prison. He goes, no, you're just right. We're going to put you over there to be the greeter so we can show everybody how bad it can get. You know what I mean? And I had that same feeling when they asked me to do this. I was kind of in my mind, it was like, oh my God, they're going to put me in front of everybody to show you how bad it can get after a bunch of years of sobriety. And the guy came out after the meeting. He says, no, Richard, to show you how far you've come. And I was like, wow. You guys got one-liners that just hit me right deep between the eyes and in the soul. You know what I mean? Normally, I'm just super nervous doing this. The first time I ever did this was at my 1-year anniversary. And not here, but another place, and it was in Tempe, I believe. And a guy named Whiskey Bill was sitting off in the corner, and he goes, don't worry, just love people and trust God, and it'll be all right. So hoping in that spirit I can do that. I already messed up the anonymity part, but I kind of corrected it as quick as possible. I get nervous because there's only one of me and a bunch of you, you know what I mean? I feel like, if this was a gang fight, I would lose quick. I'm one of those people that I grew up in New York City when I was a little boy. And I do remember that there was a lot of fear that I would feel in the home for certain reasons, you know what I mean? Just like I just remember feeling fear. And when I walked out the door and went to the streets on the way to school too, there was a lot of fear because it was violent. There was violence in the home and violence outside. And I wasn't abused or nothing, but I think some of my we'll call them corrections, were not, were a little, exuberant. But I deserved every one. I'm just not that hard, At least that's the way I thought. I thought I wasn't loved. I don't know where I got that feeling from, but I just didn't feel loved. You know what I mean? Didn't feel like cared about. Like I was I called the ghost child. Everybody else was in the family, were recognized, and I was put to the side. I wanted to be to the side because I couldn't get in trouble that way. Still didn't work, but I tried. I haven't thought about that in a while. Is this whole month had been like that since I, just kind of thinking about this stuff. I kind of thought it was kind of funny. I know there's 3 ways you do the story. The one you plan before you get here, the one you do when you do the talk, and the one you do afterward, wishing what you would have said. So the other night, I was entertaining myself by coming up with this great story. Oh, it was perfect. Great one-liners, funny. Man, in my mind, everybody was going to laugh and all that shit, right? And sure enough, you guys ain't going to hear it. It's too bad, I figured I was just doing it to entertain myself, you know, because behind this podium, I've learned that if God speaks and not me, and I just keep to my story, it'd be much better for you and for me. I know that there's growing up in New York City, there's like docks and there's dock workers. You know what I mean? And these longshoremen would be around in the neighborhood. And I'm thinking about this one guy. He was getting married, and this guy was about 6'5", 285, solid muscle. Been working on the docks all his life. And he's married this young girl, man, and she's like maybe 110 pounds, soaking wet on a bad day. You know, and she's real short, and being a traditional guy, they went to the wedding, they got married. It was a beautiful wedding, you know, hundreds of people, and, you know, being a traditional guy, you know, he wanted to carry her over the threshold, right? He picks her up and had that tender moment right before he opened the door, gave her a hug, a smooch, and, oh, it was just beautiful. Gave her a kiss, you know. Throws her on the bed and takes off his pants and throws them at her. And she looked at him like you guys are looking at me right now. And she says, put those pants on. She put them on, figured he had too many drinks at the reception, right? They fit the pants fit her like a tent because she was so little and he was so big. She goes, honey, I can't fulfill your pants. And she says, remember that woman? We'll have a long and happy marriage. Well, she looked at him the way you guys are looking at me right now. And she went over to her valise, you know, little small valise, and she pulled out some bikini panties. She went, bing, put these on, hotshot. Well, she humored me, I'll humor her. Got about half calf, wasn't going to go any further. Honey, I can't get in your panties. Said, you ain't until you change your attitude, you know. And isn't that the acronym for AA, altered attitude? Altered attitude. Book describes it as a psychic change that comes about. A psychic change is something not so mystical as it sounds. Psychic change is whatever my guiding forces, emotions, and ideas are cast aside. And a whole new set began to dominate the alcoholic. That's because of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, wow, that's pretty accurate. You know what I mean? It makes sense. Altered attitude. And that's what's happened for me. I have an altered attitude. I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous. I wasn't on a winning streak. Maybe you guys were. You know, they call them winners. I don't know where the winners are. I looked around and went, God bless, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous and we'll call it charm school. Some people from 4048 used to go down and do a panel meeting at the Florence prison. And I didn't get there by my first drunk. It took several different attempts to be cool, like with the other guys. You know what I mean? I got introduced to high-powered sedatives right away. You know, so if I wasn't drinking, I was doing high-powered sedatives. I liked them, and then they said, "Take this, and it'll make you go longer. You'll be more speedy." I don't know, man. Think about it. When we were in ¿cómo se llama? The pandemic, everybody was on Zoom. And one day I was sitting there going, man, a speed freak must have came up with that name, Zoom, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe that's how I think anyways. So anyways, there was a panel, and one of the people, they told me, you know, hey, there's a 12-step meeting over here in this hall. All right, you know. What is that? I tell you, hey, carnal, what is that? Oh, man, they got coffee and donuts, and there's a lady that comes with great perfume. And I'm sitting there going, hey, man, sign me up. And it took about a month. They would come once a month. I met some very good members of Alcoholics Anonymous to go down to Florence prison and to carry the message to me. I went to my first meeting in shackles and chains. anticipating this girl with great perfume. You know what they neglected to tell me? That this beautiful lady, I come to know, she had great perfume, all right, but she was 72 years old, for God's sake, you know what I mean? And I'm in my early 20s, you know. How did I get there, you know? I don't know if that's important, but I do know this. You guys look like really good people, you know what I mean? And when I got over there to this place, I wasn't a very good person. I had a habit that I had to get loaded every day. Now, people were saying that you shouldn't drink so much. Man, don't do that dry goods, you know. They don't do that other stuff. And I'd be like, that's what keeps me sane. That's what keeps me not wanting to hurt myself. But it gave me a place where I could go. Like permission to do anything, you know. The friends would go steal pop bottles. I stole pop bottles. They broke into the liquor store. I broke into the liquor store. Whatever they did, I did, you know. Well, I got enough trouble, and I wound up in Arizona. Now, I only seen anything that looked like a desert. I think it was, ¿cómo se llama? The Road Runner, you know what I mean? And I was thinking of Wild Bill Coyote, you know what I mean? And then when I got here, I seen a real cactus for the very first time. And it gave me the picture I knew for sure. Even the cactus had their heads up in Arizona, you know what I mean? Didn't know that I was going to follow suit. Shit. You ever been an unwelcome guest at somebody's house? And you come to, you know, with that feeling, oh, you just know you did something wrong. You don't know what it is yet because they're going to tell you, don't worry. And this time I was an unwelcome guest at my mother's house. And I was, you know, just want to get to the bathroom, wash up and get out to the bar or wherever I got to go to get that feeling off. You know what I mean? And I remember it was my mama that was right down the hall. She just kind of looked right through me, man. You know that look of contempt and pity and anger? And then those magic words. You might have heard it from a mom, dad, a wife, a husband, your children, somebody. Those magic words, man, that I think every alcoholics have heard. How could you do it again, you promised? Ooh, that still sticks in my throat, man. For reals. I got in that bathroom, I washed up and looked in that mirror and I cursed myself for a weakling. Cursed myself as no good. How could I do that to my parents one more time? One more time. Ran out the door, you know. Go to the bar. And for the very first time I noticed, I ordered a double to get that edge off. To really get that feeling off me. To try to escape from what I was feeling in my reality. Took that drink and I started to get that sense of ease and comfort that comes almost immediately. I've heard it the other day. It was that first, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I noticed for the very first time there's a mirror at the bar too. You know, you got all the whiskey and bottles and all that and everything else right there, but right in the back was a mirror. And as I drank that drink and ordered another one, I kept looking at myself in the mirror. Different mirror, but the same image. But this time the alcohol was working. I would look in the mirror and I'd go, hey. It felt like, John Wayne, Emilio Zapata, and Geronimo all rolled into one. I was like, yeah, what's going on, dude? You know, it worked. Alcohol worked. Alcohol worked. That's why I drank. That's why I drank. I remember at this one particular bar I frequent, they used to call me the Brown Recluse. Like, oh, don't mess with me. I'd be passed out, half nodding, you know what I mean? If some people know what I mean, nodding, Don't wake him up. Don't wake him up. Whatever you do, don't wake him up. He has a bite. Not that I'm a badass, I just didn't want to be messed with, I kept using until I could get that feeling of not feeling. That feeling of ease and comfort that just seems to wrap me. Problem is, I couldn't stay there. But I tried. Better living through chemistry, I used to call it. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's any DUI people, but I seem to accomplish that goal pretty quick. I'd like to get those DUIs, that first one, they take you home, whatever. I never gotten any of those. I'd get out of the car and I'd get a DUI assault, just to happen every time. You know what I mean? I had a big mouth when I was drunk, Do you got any big mouths people here? Big mouth, yeah. I would talk some stuff, I'd talk some shit, man, And I remember one time I was getting arrested, man, and we had neighbors, and they would sit out there and sit in their lawn chairs like you guys are doing right now, and they'd watch me get beat up by the cops because I was always to get right in front of my house every time, it seemed like, I'm like, bless. And they're, hey, pig, and, talking shit to the cops. And I go, hey, when they're beating your ass, I don't do that shit. They're beating me up, not you. You know what I mean? Leave them alone. Oh, my God, it was crazy. Crazy shit. Crazy stuff. And there was a lot of crazy incidents. I don't think that's so much important. Drinking became very painful. I remember even as a kid, they gave me a key. And I would always keep my key, tucked away. And have you ever been so loaded in the middle of the night and you're trying to get your key in the door? And I was that kind of guy that would be so loaded I would drop the key. And I'd hit my head against the door and I would lay down right there and the air would be coming under the door. Either warm or cold, it didn't matter. Oh, it's kind of comfortable right here. And I would sleep there. My dad would find me or my mother would find me in the morning. One more time embarrassed, One more time, the shame of me. Their shame. Something I learned about shame, I always thought it was personal to me. I think shame is put in by somebody else. They're ashamed of you. Guilt is kind of natural. You do something wrong, it's kind of natural. You're going to feel guilty. Unless you're a psychopath or something, Our book the cars is a psychopath. That's what they call it. But I think self-condemnation comes from the adversary. It's something much deeper. And I had that self-condemnation quite a bit. Just ripped me to shreds. Spiritually, physically, and everything. So when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and I went, got paroled, like any good AA. I don't know where you get paroled at, but I got paroled to my mama's house, Don't go nowhere. Just sit at home. Do this, do that. Oh, my God, I hated it. Had to pull weeds and shit. I found the 4848 was right down the street. And I remember my friend I met at 4848 and all those people that used to go over to the prison. This friend was named Mickey. I don't know if I'm supposed to say any names, but Mickey used to give me a ride home. And Mickey would always stop at the liquor store, the drive-in liquor store down Central Avenue. If anybody's been in South Phoenix, they know this liquor store was right off of Rozier. And I go, Mickey, we just came from the AA meeting. And I would always root him on. I let him drop me off, and he would drink. And every time he would go out on a run, and then he would come back to AA, whooped up. But I figured if he could stay loaded, because he drank and used like I did, if he could stay like that, I could. I know I could do it if he could do it. I remember the biggest thing back in the day, I think it was the 80s maybe. Yeah, it was the 80s. The biggest invention we had at our house, we had the phone. with that real long ass cord. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody's that old, but I mean, we had that one with a long ass cord. And the biggest invention was the caller ID, the little box. You know what I mean? They had other things, but we could afford the caller ID. I looked in and I go, "Oh, it's Mickey." And I answered the phone. I was all excited. And it wasn't Mickey. It was his wife. She was asking me to be a pallbearer. He had ran into a tree and he died the night before. And I think Alcoholics Anonymous became serious that day. I remember telling my sponsor about it, and he goes, "Richard, you know that Hawk of Truth always had something that's good to say." He said something like, "Richard, every time somebody goes out in Alcoholics Anonymous, they buy the day of sobriety for another human being. Those who go out and don't come back, and maybe they buy the lifetime of sobriety for somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous. That puts meaning into their death and a purpose in my life. I believe that he bought mine. I really do. My life began to change after that day. I know that the first time I touched that casket, because I was a pallbearer, I knew I could never predict safely what was going to happen to me when I got loaded. There was no way, there was no going guarantee that I was going to stay sober, that I was going to make it home, that I was going to embarrass my mom that day, or be embarrassed by this or that I was going to go get arrested for another DUI, that there was a possibility I would not make it back too, because he used like I did. I thank Mickey for saving my life, really, to be honest with you. I got, my parole officer requested I move to Tempe to get out of South Phoenix. And I love that little yellow house. We were talking about it earlier. 4848. Met some beautiful people there. I went to Tempe and, it was a little, right by the college. So, being a young man right out of prison, I thought, right by the college, right? Hey. And I found myself like a wild, sober person that didn't know how to control his emotions or anything else. And I just didn't understand Alcoholics Anonymous until I met him. And him was my sponsor. He looked like a troll. You know how they say, find somebody you can relate to and somebody you pick and all that? I didn't pick his ass. He picked me. He must have read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, we seek out the newcomers. They don't seek us out. That's too arrogant. You know what I mean? Too arrogant for us to think that they had to come to us because we're sober. The book says that we should seek out the newcomer, to go to the most sordid places to help another human being. And this guy did. Back in the day, they used to have a pay phone at the club. And when the phone rang, we went to 12-step calls. I don't know if we do that anymore. I really don't. I don't hear about it too much. I used to love to go with him, but I really didn't at the first, because he had that, he would always, I had just got a girlfriend, and she was living with me, and it'd be late at night, like, nobody wants to get sober at 10 o'clock, they want to get sober at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, Oh, my G. And he would call me, I think, and he told me later he called me because I was in a new relationship. Well, that's what I called it. I don't think that's what it was. I remember this one time we went to this, the Deuce, they called it back in Phoenix, and Wino Gulch, you know what I mean? And it was a flop house. It was just a flop house. Smelled like puke and everything else, and it's bottles, and it was just funky as you can get. And then we're talking to this guy, and there's people throwing on the floor. Can we help you? And nothing ever worked. It was a cold night, too. Phoenix gets cold once in a while. And I remember, couldn't get out there where we came out, and the guy didn't want to get sober, and just, I don't know what he wanted exactly. And I thought, well, we just wasted my sleep. You know what I mean? What the hell are we doing? He goes, Richard, I am responsible. anyone anywhere reaches out for help, the hand of A has to be there. Because that's what happened for him. Somebody saved his life that way. Okay. About 6 months later, there's a gentleman at the meeting. Because we invited him to our meeting, our home group. And he goes, you guys remember that one about 6 months ago, wintertime, blah, blah, blah. And we looked at him and I go, man, the guy didn't look nothing like him, right? And I go, man, that guy was young, older. There's no way. And he goes, oh, it wasn't me that you were talking to. I was under the bed, but I heard the message when you were talking to him. I was impressed with Alcoholics Anonymous one more time. One more time. I found myself engulfed in your love. I don't know about what you guys think, but I'm a product of your love from the very beginning. I can't say no names. Everybody told me I can't say no names. Not that that's going to stop me, it probably will, but they told me I shouldn't because it's an open meeting. It could be anybody here. But I know there's so many people that saved me in so many different ways. Well, this Hawk of Truth, I called him, started getting me through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous right away. But the first job I ever had in Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't the greeter. Oh, no. He says, Richard, I want you to go clean the bathroom. It was a Sunday morning big book study, right? Set up the chairs and go clean the bathroom. I looked at him, just because I'm a Latino doesn't make me a janitor, man. You got me messed up. You know what I mean? And he says, no. If you don't want to do it, you know how they say, you don't have to do it. I'll do it because I want to stay sober. Ugh. Who does? I always thought, like, who does that? You know what I mean? And I remember when he introduced himself. Hey, kid, you ready to stop dying? Who talks to people who just got out of prison like that? You know what I mean? What's wrong with this guy? He was a Vietnam vet. I lost my brother in Vietnam. And I sure enough felt a connection to this man that I never thought I would. Never thought I would. We went to H&I meetings a lot. I went back to the prison I was in to speak and to chair meetings there in Yuma and in Douglas also. Want to go to Winslow, and I hope that opens up again. I think there's something going on there again. Because I know by giving away myself of what I've been given here, the love that you guys gave me, I find that I have a freedom. You know what I mean? He put it this way. My sponsor used to have like riddles, I guess. I call them parables. And he would say, I want you to take this coin and polish it up. There's 12 of them. I want you to polish them one every day. And after about a year, I went and showed him about these 12 coins. They look great. They were shiny. And I was cleaned up just like the coins. And my spirit was cleaned up like the coins. But I didn't realize that. I just thought I was polishing coins. And he says, okay, I want you to give them away now. You're out of your damn mind, I told him. It took a long time. He said, no, you must give what you cannot keep so you can receive. I'm like, what? Parables, right? So I went and gave to this guy that I knew wasn't going to keep the coins, but I gave them to him anyways, And he goes, well, what do you want? I know we are. We don't like nobody in Alcoholics Anonymous because we don't like ourselves. At least that's how I see it. I don't trust any alcoholics, Well, you can't even trust yourself, you know what I mean? I relate to that. Gave the coins. Didn't cost me nothing. Didn't cost him nothing. Well, what do I do? Just polish them up one at a time. Okay. And I walked in to go in, and I got a car now, right? That's my next story. And I go in and get my keys out of my pocket, and there's coins in my pocket. So 12 coins. I said, what the hell? How'd that happen? So I go around to the guy that gave them to me, my sponsor. I said, how'd this happen? He goes, Richard, you can give those coins to 1, 10, 20 people, 1,000. And as long as you're giving away the 12 coins, you'll always have them in your heart. That's really come true in my life. And I try to shine them up as much as I possibly can every day. From the guy that was the greeter that was scared, well, to show you how bad it could be, if you keep on drinking, to a guy that's standing up here, come a long way. The car thing, oh God, that was funny. I don't know about you, but I never had a license. I might have had one when I first got sober. I mean, when I first started, like 16. But I stole a lot of cars. You know what I mean? I didn't call it stolen. I borrowed them. I didn't need the keys, but I borrowed it. I don't do that anymore. In case you're wondering if your car is safe, it is. Hell, I didn't even drive today. I was blessed with a favor. And I went in. I bought me I think it was a Datsun 210 hatchback, stick shift. Like canary yellow or some shit. It was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen in my life, but it was mine, I had a better car when I was 16, I'll tell you that. I wrecked it. There was a 69 Firebird, and I wrecked it running from the cops. So this one was like my first sobriety car, right? Kind of like my car now, like a newcomer car, right? And And I remember I told my sponsor I went to go show him his new car that I bought, man, because I'm working and shit. He goes, "You got license, Richard?" "What's that?" "I never had no license, I don't know nothing about no license." And he goes, "Give me your keys." I thought he was going to take me for a test drive, you know what I mean? He kept the keys. Can't drive the car until you get a license, he told me. Who does that, right? And I went like, all right, my sponsor, I'll do it. Hated the guy. Could not stand him. And I don't even like the word hate. I'm telling you, I did not like him. I come to love that man later. I still do. So I go over there with my, I took the picture. And I remember my little girl said, "Daddy, you look like you just went to the next level on American Idol." And I had this goofy smile picture. And he looked at it and he goes, "Oh, that's good. Well, let me have my keys." He goes, "No, you need insurance." What? Who does that? Old people do that. So I had to get insurance. Had to get a jack. Had to get a spare tire, before I could drive my own damn car. Now, I would have never done that for any other man. I don't know why I listened to this guy. But he showed me responsibility, that driving was a privilege. A privilege. Just like anything else in life. Life is precious, and it's a privilege to be around anything and everybody. To have a family and respect them. Kind of like, hope I can say this right. Kind of like when you have a, the way he used to put it was like, if you have lost your job due to drinking, you don't ever deserve to have it back. You lost your license due to drinking, you don't ever deserve to have it back. You lost your family due to drinking, you don't ever deserve to have it back. I thought that was really cold to say. And he says, because the reason he said that if those things, a lot of those things do come back as you stay sober for a period of time. Your license, a job, your family. And if you feel like you deserve them, then you will not respect it any more than you did the first time. But if you feel like you don't deserve it, and those things come back, it's easy to know you're blessed. And I'm very blessed. Very blessed. I just got off the phone today with my middle daughter, my medical power of attorney. And I'll get to that part too. Eight or 9 years ago, I can't remember the date. My wife got sick. She had breast cancer, and we were raising our children, and it spread into the rest of her body, I guess. And I wasn't I wasn't a very good husband. I'm just gonna say that, just straight out. But at the end, she wanted me there, and I felt that was a privilege, big privilege. I've never seen anybody forgive somebody so much, for so much. She showed me something that I'd never seen anybody else do, to forgive me like that. My mom and dad didn't even forgive me like that. She showed me something and left me a gift that I'll never forget. So when people hurt me, I don't sit there and dwell on it. I find a way out, because I know forgiveness goes a long way. Forgiveness will smooth out a lot of different things. It's the ultimate love for me. The ultimate love. Shortly after that, I had my first episode. I had a heart attack. I didn't even know I was having a heart attack. I was supposed to meet my friend. We were going to go to a different meeting way on the west side, and I went to In-N-Out, because there's one in Phoenix, and I was excited, and all of a sudden I started throwing up. After I was at my friend's house. I got sick, and I got to go home. And I started getting dizzy and pull off the side road, throw up. Well, I did make it home barely. And I just laid there, and about 3 days later, I'm still throwing up. I can't hold nothing down. This girl offered me chicken soup, and thought I had a flu. I didn't know what it was. I was having a heart attack for 3 days. And there's one thing I noticed. They taught me about the heart. There's 4 quadrants, and one quadrant is like where the pump comes out, the first. And that was what was damaged the most. I think I got like 15% of my infraction or something like that. Maybe 10, I don't know. And so I kind of struggle with high climate or whatever. But because of your love and your care and a gracious God, I came back from that. They gave me 3 stents that day, and then I had another episode. They gave me 2 more stents, and had another episode. They gave me another stent. And man, I felt like, wow, like enough, uncle, you know what I mean? That rotor-rooter stuff, I just, okay. And then I had another episode where I went to the point of congestive heart failure, and I'm too young for this, you know what I mean? And it started spitting up blood, and I was going, well, my lady friend, she took me to the hospital, and they admitted me, and I had open heart surgery. When I came to, I remember seeing my nephew and my daughter. And I don't know how else to put it. Is this, those two together didn't make any sense, because they don't hang out or nothing, you know what I mean? But I saw the fear in their eyes. I knew it was serious. I did recover. I did what they told me to do. But one thing about being in the hospital, people from the church, they came the first time I went to the hospital. But the 5th time, only you people showed up. You guys would come and bring me meetings and magazines and grapevines and the little black book, 24-hour book. And we just had meetings in the hospital, you know what I mean? I was like, I guess alcoholics have nowhere else to go, you know what I mean? And I remember the nurse came in and she goes, Mr. Quinones, you can only have 2 people in at one time, and they have to be family members. And my answer was, well, they are family. Mr. Quinones, we have every nationality under the sun here, you know what I mean? And for God's sake, I saw 2 girls, they look like gypsies. I go, they are. I go, we are family, because I said my name is Richard, and I'm alcoholic. When you say your name, don't you say alcoholic too? So we must be all family, right? We got all the same last name, that's how I see it. I found happiness here and laughter. When I go to my home group at the acceptance group, yeah, it's a big book study, of course. Of course. That's where the answers are in the book. What answer is it? What's the question? You know, I'm starting to think, everything I ever know about my alcoholism I found in the book. My sponsors used to say that all the time. 12 and 12 is even more deeper for the people that have been sober for longer. If you don't read any kind of material, then I guess we're just a visitor. My friend said it like this, so I'm going to say it the same way. It's like, if you think the chair is going to keep you sober, put $50 in the basket and take it home. Pray to it, sit in it, worship it, whatever you do for a chair. And when you find out that don't work, bring it back. We're not going to get the $50 back, but thank you, because a newcomer might need that chair. It's not the chair that keeps you sober. Meetings are a great place to be with the fellowship, just like this is. Beautiful place. What better place to have a meeting than by a lake in this kind of weather with you people? You people that I was so afraid of, so afraid to get to know, so afraid to reach out my hand, so afraid that I thought I was different, and I wanted to be different because I was a Latino from South Phoenix. Give me a break. I'm nothing different about you than me. We're the same. The story might be different. You drank in different places. But we have the same traits over and over and over. Every time I hear a story. Well, they only give me so much time to bore you. So I'm getting kind of wrapping up because I'm getting tired too, I have this issue going on with my leg now. I lost one. Right after all those heart attacks, I lost my leg. Stepped on a rusty staple, and I got MRSA. It was like a 2-acre lot, and I'm the one who stepped on the staple, and it broke the skin just enough to give me MRSA. Maybe it was a gift. I remember when I had the heart attacks, my friend said, "Hey, don't you go have any more heart attacks." I said, maybe my heart needed softening. Maybe my heart needed softening because I'm much more gentle man since then. Much more. I'm not so hyper. I'm not so wild. When I lost my leg, I guess my walk was still just crooked enough to where I needed it straightened out. Everything is altered attitudes. Everything's changing my perception. When I was in the wheelchair, I don't know about you, man. I had never, ever noticed anybody's shoes. You know what I mean? Just never have. I mean, if you got some nice Nikes, I see them from afar, but I don't really pay attention because I'm not a Nike person. Some people are. They get the new Nike, new Jordans or whatever. But I never really pay attention. But when in the wheelchair, you're a lot lower. So you start looking at people's feet. You know what I mean? And in Phoenix, we call them chanclas. I heard they're called flip-flops. Like it's hot there because people wear those, chanclas, flip-flops. And I would look at some people got some ugly-ass feet, don't they? Now, I can say that because I got ugly feet, you know what I mean? So, I'm not trying to put you down. But it was perception. The wheelchair taught me perception and how to see life in a different angle. And our book describes that in the 4th step. To look at life in a different angle. That sometimes the people that we have resentments about really dominate us. And we can't wish that away no more than we can wish alcohol. But if we do the steps the way they outline, step 1, a spiritual kindergarten is what we're in, right? I mean, I call it that because they even do the ABCs in the 5th step, right? That's kindergarten. Number 1 through 12. Kindergarten, for God's sake. You know what I mean? No graduation here, unless when you go to the big meeting in the sky, I guess. I don't know. Wherever your meeting is supposed to be for you. I'm looking forward to being in the meeting in the sky when I get there. I know rush, believe you me, you know what I mean? But I know my wife's going to be there. And I'll get to hold her again. And I'll be excited about that. I'll be totally excited about that. Anyways, this issue's going on with his other leg now. And they went and did this test this past couple, like 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday, I don't remember what, yesterday. So what's today, Friday? Yeah. And I guess I got all kind of blood clots in my leg now. And I didn't know that because I have a wound on my foot that won't heal. And so we went and did that test, and now I know, and they're going to do some, Roto-Rooter on my, like what they did with my heart, those stents. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little worried. I was engulfed with fear when I first found out. Not so much for me, but for my girls. Who's going to take care of me if they take my leg? You know what I mean? I made it through one leg. I can make it through another if it came down to it. Somebody told me something was written in the big books that I crave to, how do I say this? It's written in the big book about we know a God that knows neither time or limitations. My mom used to say, Dios es muy grande, God is real big. Real big. You people introduced me to a power greater than myself that I know solves my problems. Because I've had plenty of problems. I had plenty of difficulties. And for God's sake, Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous has changed my perception and my attitude toward a lot of different things. Have I been through the ringer? Absolutely. Sobriety sometimes is harder than drinking. I don't have circumstantial sobriety. Have you ever noticed people that keep going out and they call themselves, I'm a chronic relapser. Well, you just told yourself and gave you permission to drink again. What you say about yourself comes true. I really believe that. The words you use about yourself come true. That's circumstantial sobriety. That's how I see it. I remember my sponsor gave me an assignment early on. He said something like, write down on a piece of paper all the things that would get you drunk. And I'm here to tell you 35 years later, all those things have come true, and I didn't drink. There's a way through this. If there wasn't a way out, I wouldn't be here in Alcoholics Anonymous. If this thing didn't work, I wouldn't be here. Because I know I could find something better to do than go sit in a damn meeting for an hour. But you're there. I used to think I had power. I don't know about you. I was the best construction worker. I was this, I was that, blah, blah. All lies, right? One thing I learned about lies is the truth is an acquired taste when you've been living out of the trash of lies all your life. I know for sure that you'll tell me the truth about Richard if I like it or not, because those are the ones I really trust. I got about 5 men that I trust with all my heart. And now a couple ladies too that I trust with all my heart, with a lot more sobriety than I do. They invite me. You guys invite me places. You invited me here. I'll just go wherever you go. You know, if you go to Coco's, I go to Coco's, you know. Go to Miss Zips, I go to Miss Zips, you know. I go wherever you tell me to go. Where would I go if you didn't go there? You want to hear a funny-ass story? At least it is to me. There's a young boy that came out of prison. And it was like last year, a friend of mine, she does a law class at the NAU. And she asked me to tell my story there. I said, like me? Like get a cop or another lawyer or something. What am I going to tell these kids? You know what? You can't go from prison cell to teaching a class at NAU except through you. This is the only way that it's possible for a guy like me. And I used to feel like I was less than even now. Because people have such creativity, such degrees, talents way beyond me. And I go, I was a laborer most of my life. But I fit here anyways. But I'm no different than you. When I drink alcohol, something happens to me. It makes me very thirsty. And I can never get enough. You ever had an alcoholic say I had enough? Non-drinkers say that. Alcoholics say, give me one more for the road. So I got me a good DUI, you know, extreme. I always end my talk a certain way. I didn't know I had a signature ending, but I guess I do. I'll do 2 stories and I'll shut up. Because it's getting dark, right? The story was like, if you wanted to know what like heaven and hell were like, in my vision, it's like you have long banquet tables and plenty of them. And there's chairs all around these tables. And on the banquet tables, there's food. Every kind of food imaginable. If you can think it, it's there and there's plenty of it. And these people are sitting there. And they have long forks and long spoons tied to their hands. And they're right next to each other, all around these tables. And the fork and the spoon is so long, they can't get the food in their mouth. They can get the food, but they can't get it to their mouth because they're too long. And they're all sucked up and they're dying. They're amongst plenty, but yet they're starving. Can't take it. That's hell for me. Be amongst plenty, but yet you're starving. Going, what's heaven like? Long banquet tables, plenty of food, any kind of food imaginable. And there's people sitting around those tables with long forks and long spoons tied to their hands. Too long, they can't get it to their mouth. But these people are happy, full, and content. Because what they're doing is they're taking a spoonful and feeding the person across the table. And they're feeding them. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is to me. A slice of heaven. Being spiritually fed by you. Sunday morning. Back in the day, they used to have a newspaper. I know they did. And the dad's reading the Sunday paper. Little boy comes up. Daddy, Daddy, come and show me how to catch this baseball you bought me. I'm busy. Reading the paper, can't you tell? As he just tips up his beer. Being persistent, the little boy came back. Dad got frustrated. And he looked at the newspaper and it was a picture of the world. He tore the picture of the world 100 pieces or more. Put in the little boy's hat and said, when you can put the picture of the world together, I'll go show you how to catch the baseball. He goes scamper off to the room. Figures he got rid of him so he could read the paper and drink his beer. About 5 minutes later, the little boy comes back. Come show me how to catch the baseball, Daddy. So I told you. He goes, I'm done. I know you're a smart kid because you're my kid, but tell me how you did it so fast. He goes, Daddy, I don't know much about the world, but I turned the picture upside down. It was a picture of man on the other side. And piece by piece, I put the world together, and I put the picture of the man together, and the world was okay. And that's exactly what's happened to me in Alcoholics Anonymous. Step by step, piece by piece. You put this man back together. And today my world's okay. Thank you.